The Walking Dead Season 8 Episode 1 premiered last night, and it's titled Mercy, and it's directed by Greg Nicotero. Now, this is my first review for an episode from The Walking Dead, and really my first review from any TV show. And I'm going to do this in 3 sections. The first being my overall review for the episode, which most likely will contain spoilers, so this is your spoiler warning. The second part being any Easter eggs that I might have found, and I did find some in this episode. And the third part being any predictions that I think are going to happen within the show overall, or just even later in the season, or even just a couple episodes later, which again would be later in the season. So that section will most likely contain potential spoilers. So let's get into this review. I actually really liked this episode. I don't think it was the strongest season premiere by any means. Honestly, I think the strongest season premieres were for season 5 when they broke out of Terminus, and season 7. Season 7's premiere, nobody really liked because of how hard-hitting it was. You know, it was a lot of gut punches with the death of Glenn and Abraham. But this season, it was more triumphant, and it wasn't, you don't feel scared or sad in this episode. You feel kind of empowered, you know. You get that whole speech from Rick and Maggie and even King Ezekiel, and those speeches are like, they're rallying cries, you know. They're just, you're getting behind their ideals. And while I was listening to Rick's speech, you know, I'm thinking, like, he's kind of contradicting himself. Like, he's saying, we end these people, we killed them, but anybody who kills, they're bad. And it's like, wait, aren't you saying that? And then he goes on to basically say, we don't celebrate it, but we have to do it. It's necessary to kill the saviors and Negan. So, you know, I think the writers were writing that speech, and they're like, you know, we're making Rick look really bad, so we gotta we gotta salvage his reputation and make him look good, make him the leader that we know him to be. So I honestly, I really liked the speech, and I loved the beginning. I haven't watched all the episodes from Fear the Walking Dead. I'm pretty far behind to that. I'm a big fan of the TV show of The Walking Dead. I've never read any of the comics. I have seen a few things from the comics, but I don't know how they get there or what happens. I only know a few things, and mainly from my brother. He just he says a few things, and sometimes I look it up. But so I'm not like the biggest Walking Dead fan, but I am a big fan of the TV show. I've seen every episode. I love watching it. Now I gotta say, what separates The Walking Dead from Fear the Walking Dead and a lot of other TV shows is the art that goes into these TV episodes. You know, there's a lot of long shots, especially in this episode. There were a lot of really long takes. It's like, is something gonna happen? Personally, I really like those takes because it builds tension, because you're just like, what's gonna happen? I love it. And they did a lot of that in this episode. They used to do it a lot in the older seasons. Especially, I think, season 3 and 4, those were really slower seasons. They had the governor in them. They were at the prison. But I really liked those seasons. Season 4, the latter part was pretty slow. Even the beginning part was pretty slow. There was the best episode ever in that season. But anyway, they had a lot of good shots in this episode. And I really appreciated the cinematography that went into this episode in particular. It was beautifully shot. And the beginning has these, like, what I assume is 3 timelines happening. The present, which is the speech with Rick, Maggie, and King Ezekiel, with all their people around them listening, and then they're about to go fight against the saviors or attack them. The other timeline is Rick. He's all like bloodshot eyes, looks like he's been crying or sweating or just tired or something, and he's got this reflection on his face that's like, looks like it's just from someone doing something with that, or from a window. I don't know, but That's another timeline that is very, you only see a tiny little bit of that in this episode. Then there's another timeline that a lot of people are calling heaven. I've heard that being said, and I see it as just a big leap forward that we're not going to see again until the mid-season finale. So on episode 8 of this season, that's when we're going to get the reveal of what this is. Or if they're going to really draw it out till the end of this season, that's when we're going to be told what's happening in this timeline of the future where Rick's got a flat top, he's balding, he's got a really thick beard. Honestly, he looked like Viggo Mortensen, and unfortunately not in a good way. So I'll get more into that into my predictions section, but I see that as 3 timelines, and yeah, I'll get to that in my predictions part. So at the end of season 7, we got this little note from who we assumed was Dwight, basically apologizing to all the Alexandrians, saying, I didn't know that, that the Saviors were going to come attack. But now we get confirmation that it is Dwight that is helping them. He's siding with Rick's group, all those 3 communities, and he feels bad for them. And we kind of saw that happening in season 7 over the past few episodes. When his wife left, we haven't seen her for a while. But it is confirmed that he is helping them. He's writing notes. He shot that crossbow arrow. And I didn't know what was on it at first. And then they start showing these people get killed left and right. And I'm like, oh, that part was awesome to me. Because it was Dwight telling them where all the lookouts were. And Rick, the Alexandrians, the Kingdom, the Hilltop, they were all just wiping out these lookouts. I thought that was such a great addition to this episode. That was probably one of my favorite parts of this episode. Then you got Tara, Morgan, Carol, and Daryl. All 4 of them are trying to guide this herd of walkers to the sanctuary, and I really did enjoy that part as well. I was glad to see that Morgan is, he's pulling his weight now. Before, I was a little worried that he was just kind of, at the end of season 7, he started going crazy again, so I thought he was either going to go off on his own and be like, screw all of you. Now he's back in the fold, and he's killing. So he's realized that he can't just not kill in this world. So I like that about his character. He's evolved. And then you got Rick and Maggie and King Ezekiel leading the charge to the sanctuary. And that part bothered me because, the whole idea about this, they keep saying only one person has to die. It's Negan, right? As soon as he stepped out of the door, they should have just shot him. Now, being a fan of the show, I'm glad they didn't, because it's I want Negan to survive a little bit longer because I want it to build up more. I don't want it to have built up for the season premiere and then he's gone. And then the next 7 episodes are just a build up of a new villain or something. So I'm glad that they didn't kill him, but I'm also they should have. They should have killed him right then and there. They also should have killed Simon. I don't get it why they just were okay, let's just talk. You know what Negan's capable of. Why don't you just kill him? He's got a lot of numbers. You need to kill him right now. Take out the leader. Sure, someone else might take charge, but you know what? Just kill Negan. And this is where I have to talk about the plan from Rick and everybody else involved. It was pretty unrealistically planned out to where no mistakes were possible. And of course they didn't make any mistakes, but it kind of, I don't know, it seemed too perfect. Ocean's 11 on steroids. Everything took place miles away from each other at the exact right moment. They timed everything from the walkers walking around the road on an entrance ramp or something. They timed it to within 5 to 6 seconds of being that precise. Explosions going off at the right time. They knew exactly where these cars are going to be driving. That just kind of was a little, it was too convenient for me. But I did like it. I enjoyed it, and it was fun. So now Gabriel has been caught, or not really caught, he just kind of walked into a trailer with Negan. So that's going to be kind of a tense few moments, at least, in the next episode or two, however long they draw that out. But overall, I gotta give this episode an A-. It was very entertaining. I was a little disappointed because they kept saying, you know, it's the 100th episode, it's gonna be big, it's gonna be awesome. And yeah, it was great, but I could have done with a little bit more. It was, I don't know, it just felt a little underwhelming for the 100th episode and the season premiere. With such a strong season premiere last season and a very strong season finale last season, I just thought season 8 premiere should have been up to par. It just didn't feel like it met those two episodes on either end of season 7. But overall, I did really enjoy this episode. So now we move on to the Easter eggs section of this video. Now, keep in mind, I've only watched this episode once. That was last night during the premiere. So it was only the things that I caught watching it live. I didn't go back and watch it again. The first thing that popped out to me was the beginning with Carl. He's getting gas. He's carrying a gas tank. He's got the sheriff hat on. And it's basically like a shot-for-shot mirrored sequence of the first season, episode 1, with Rick. Whereas in episode 1 with Rick, he's getting gas for his patrol car, and he's hearing this footsteps, and he looks underneath the car and he sees this little girl walking. And, you know, he calls for the little girl. The girl turns out to be Walker. He has to shoot the girl. In this episode, you know, Carl's trying to get gas for a car, and he hears someone talking to him. So he's looking around like, who the heck is talking to me? He gets into the car, sees someone's feet. He brings out the gun, tries to go over there to, you know, threaten him. And it's this guy, and Rick comes in and saves the day. I just thought that was an interesting parallel between Rick and Carl. And I don't want to get too much into predictions yet because that comes in the next section, but I'll come right back to that in a minute. The other Easter egg that I saw, it was a really short moment, also in the beginning, with Carol on the bridge when they're watching the Walker herd travel underneath the bridge. Carol looks over and she sees a drawing of a flower on the side of the bridge. And again, I'll get back to this in a couple minutes with my predictions part, but this goes back to season 4. After the prison was attacked by the governor for the second time, you know, everyone got scattered. Carol and Tyrese, they saved 2 of the girls. I don't remember their names, and Judith as well, Rick's daughter. And they found a house that they stayed in for a couple days, and they were starting to do pretty good. Now, the older of the 2 girls, they were sisters, she was kind of losing it mentally. And eventually she kills her younger sister, and she's about to kill Judith, but because she sees walkers as still being kind of human. So she's like, it's okay, I didn't hurt her brain, she'll come back. So basically Carol had to kill this girl because she was a danger to everyone around her. And she's just mentally unstable, and they don't have the type of abilities to handle that stuff in that post-apocalyptic world. So she had to kill the girl, and during that scene, it's a very powerful scene, she kept telling her to look at the flowers, you know, just look at the flowers. And it also could be kind of a hint back to her daughter, who, while Daryl was looking for her, Daryl found a Cherokee rose and gave it to Carol as kind of like, you know, we're gonna find your girl. You know, it was a very touching moment between Carol and Daryl. But again, I will get to the predictions part in just One moment. So now that that moment's passed, let's get into the predictions. Now this is the part where it could get really heavy into spoilers. I don't read the comics. I've only heard a few things from the comics that have yet to happen. Now I don't know if that's actually going to happen in this show. I assume so because as far as I know, they've been sticking pretty close to the comics lately. But yeah, this is a spoiler warning for sure. The first thing I want to talk about is the mirrored experience with Carl and Rick. From Carl in this episode to Rick in season 1, episode 1. This could just be like a preparation of the fact that Carl could be taking over as leader when Rick dies. And this could be coming up soon. I think it was confirmed by Robert Kirkman that Rick will not survive The Walking Dead. And honestly, I think that's where the series should end, with Rick's death. But it could, obviously, it could go on forever. You know, they could keep making seasons until, I don't even know. They could just make seasons forever. Now, that is a hint at that, but also the fact that Michonne kind of was telling Carl, like, this is your show, when they were defending, or left behind to defend Alexandria in case of an attack by the Saviors. So Michonne's basically like, you're in charge right now. So, you know, he's starting to get more responsibilities. He's able to lead a little bit more. So that's how I see it. The other thing with Carol and seeing the flower on the ramp, on the cement barrier, that could be one of two things. One, she could die in this season, okay? Because last time, I mean, she said, look at the flowers and had to kill that girl. It could just be a simple reminder of that, or it could be that she's thinking of Daryl. I don't know, maybe, I know people have been pulling for a Carol and Daryl relationship for the longest time. We actually see them hug again, which was cute. And you know, it's more of a mother-son type of relationship. That's how I see it. Or an aunt and nephew type of relationship. I don't think they will ever fall in love. And if they do, whatever, that's great. And the fans will love it. I think that they're going to draw it out as long as they can, just so it's better when it happens and it gets a bigger response. Now, I don't want them to kill Carol, but they could. And now I just want to talk about those two timelines that were separate from the present. And what I mean by present is everything that's happening now with the attack on the sanctuary and everything happening with the big overall story that's still going. The first one being I don't even know which one to start with because they both kind of they both intertwine with each other. Let's just start with the one that was less shown, with Rick. At the end, he says, I think he says mercy triumphs over all or something like that. Basically how I see it is this is going to be the final showdown between Rick and Negan. And Rick is going to have the opportunity to kill Negan, and he's not going to. I don't think Gabriel is going to die. I think he's going to talk Rick out of it because they've shown Gabriel to be a very strong character in the last season, and so far in just this episode. He's a pretty strong character now. And I actually like his character now. Before, I did not like him at all. This season, he's doing really good. I have a feeling that, you know, everything's going to go down. It's going to be Negan remaining of the Saviors, and Rick is going to have his finger on the trigger. He's about to pull it, but he's going to stop himself. And then he's going to say mercy triumphs over all, because that's something that Gabriel taught him or something. And because of that, the further flash forward with Rick having the cane, this is after their fight scene, I'm assuming. Maybe his knee or hip got hit really hard by maybe Lucille or something. And, you know, it's just an injury that he just can't recover from. And he's gotten older. It's just only a couple of years later because Judith she's not Carl's age. I thought they were going to jump ahead so where she's a teenager. She's only maybe 7 or 8, maybe a little bit older or younger. But basically, she comes in saying it's an owl statue or piñata or something. I don't really remember. But basically, what I think is going to happen is we're going to get a huge reveal near the beginning or end of the mid-season finale that Rick and Negan are living in the same community. And as allies. They're not fighting against each other anymore. They have peace between them. That's how I think it's going to go down. And I don't think it's possible to redeem Negan in any form because of the characters that he killed and how he killed them and what he's done since then. He's just an unredeemable character. And I really want them to kill him, but I also want him to last because he's a good actor. I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan, especially in this role. He seems to love it. But yeah, I don't see them being able to redeem him, but they could use him. So that's how I see it all playing out for the rest of this season and into season 9. Because eventually they're going to have to fight somebody worse than Negan. They can't draw out the Negan, the Savior's War. I don't know how else to say it, but I don't think they can drag that out for another season or two. Maybe half of this season, but it's going to be way too much action that's hard to film. So they're gonna tone it down by the end of this, by the mid-season finale. So those are my predictions, Easter eggs, and review. Let me know if you guys found any Easter eggs that I might have missed, or if I forgot to talk about something in the review that you guys wanted to point out, or if you have any different predictions, like who's gonna die. I don't want to make any predictions on that yet because it's too early to tell in this season. You know, we haven't really been given any evidence other than Gabriel, but I don't think he's gonna die. They're still developing his character to be a really important character. Yeah, he's still important right now, but I don't think he's going anywhere yet. So let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. I personally really did enjoy this episode, and this season is gonna be a big one. So I'm excited to see where they take it and to see if I'm right about my predictions. So if you like this video, be sure to give it a big old thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon so you can be notified of when we upload new content. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.